Welcome to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, and as we continue our series entitled Let Freedom Ring, today we will talk about Let Freedom Ring in Your Home. Freedom means to set at liberty, to move away from dominance. Freedom means one who ceases to be a slave or under captivity, and yet freedom means that at any time, anywhere, any place, there is never any such thing as not being under the authority of some rulership. When we talk about home and letting freedom ring in the home, let's first distinguish home from house. Home is defined as being among, divided away from, but put into the midst of. Home is defined as being between, or the inhabitants of. To distinguish home from house, house is the domicile dwelling place, the structure, the tent, the hut, the palace, the nest, the stalls, or the layers. So the home is better defined as the people who are inside the dwelling place. So the house is where the home resides. We're talking about allowing freedom to ring in your home. First, in order for freedom to ring, it must be inside the inhabitants of the home. So many times people will say, well, I just wish my house was a happy place. In order to achieve happiness inside the house, first, freedom must be inside the inhabitants of the house, because the home is constituted of the individuals. Pamela Duckerman is a former reporter for the Wall Street Journal. While in France, she noticed a very astounding difference in how French mothers and fathers raised their children without a lot of stress compared to American parenting. So she wrote her findings in a book entitled Bringing Up BB. It was published in February of this year, 2012. It stressed the urgency of raising children in an environment that is clear in terms of its expectations, consistent in terms of its framework, yet with limits and with boundaries. It is within such a framework that Ms. Duckerman discovered that children truly enjoy freedom with the house and the home. So if the structure is there, the four walls, the child enjoys more freedom within the structure when the residents of the structure, namely the parents, make sure that the regulations, the expectations are consistent, they are with limits, and they are with consequences if any of those who are inside the structure chooses not to abide. And because of that, what Duckerman has discovered, that not always is this true, but generally speaking, in the French homes, freedom rings more inside the home than in many of her companion homes in the U.S. in her profession. And she simply bases that on her experience as a mother with her husband raising their children in a French environment. It's not always true, but she found that for the most part, there was a distinction between French families and her counterparts. Within any house structure, boundaries provide a map that tells the home, the inhabitants, where they're going. And without such boundaries, the home inhabitants get out of control, making the house structure a little bit of a chaotic place. So in order to maintain the house structure, the inhabitants of the home must have boundaries. According to Todd Henry, author of The Accidental Creative, boundaries and freedoms are two sides of the same coin. In the process of maintaining proper boundaries, the results will render freedom, which facilitates a joyful cry inside the house by its inhabitants, which makes up the home. Total freedom, as often defined by people, meaning no boundaries set by others to be adhered to, total freedom is often not freedom at all. It is truthfully not freedom, but it's rather a roadmap to turmoil. Total freedom, according to Henry, is false freedom. And false freedom is going to create pain. And yet true freedom will always possess, according to Henry, healthy boundaries. So often we want freedom, absolute, not understanding that absolute freedom must have absolute bounds. And although we're striving for that perfection, none of us have achieved it. In the Bible, Luke chapter 9, verse 61, when we talk about let freedom ring in your home, another says to Jesus, I will follow you, Lord, but first allow me to say farewell to my family. Let's read that same text coming from the Old King James rendition. Another said also, Lord, I will follow thee, but let me first go bid farewell, which are at my home, at my house. Look at the distinction. I want to go to my family and bid them farewell. The direct translation does not use the term house because it is a given that the family, the contents, the people live in a tent, a tabernacle, a palace, a hut. But wherever that domicile is, the location, the structure, that's where he wanted to go because that's where he would find his family, the people. People will allow freedom to reign when there is proper structure, when there are proper expectations. Not until then can families really rejoice. I'll see you back in class again next time. Don't be late and don't skip class.